Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, sports fans. There you go. What do you think, Clay?
I like it.
Yeah, across the nation and around the world. This is Tim May for the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall. Clay, I really look forward to this show for a lot of reasons. Number one, we kind of pre-record stuff occasionally for use later. And we did that the other day with a fellow named Ryan Day and his son, who's being much more sought after as a quarterback prospect, RJ Day. We got to sit and talk with him for a little while via an internet hookup. Very much enjoyed that.
I did too. Talking
to Ryan Day, a dad,
right,
and not Ryan Day. What do you think about a 2014 playoff, or what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What rules should be enforced more than others in the NCAA right now? Everything. We all know that it seems like inevitable now that college football is going to end up with a 2014 playoff, that the conference championship games are eventually, and maybe sooner rather than later, going to go away.
I'm okay with that.
I'm okay. Well, I am too, but I'm not, man. I mean,
but I don't.
You got an 18-team conference. You don't even know who the champion is. I mean, why do you even have a conference? You know why you have a conference? Because at the end of the day, you can pass out the greenbacks, man, like the Big Ten just did.
But what's your take on 24? That's ridiculous.
Well, no, it's not, because then
I don't want.
You'll have 8 teams hosting another 8 teams. Probably the way I'm trying to figure it out, 8 teams would get a bye. I don't know how else they would do it, but 8 teams would get a bye, and you'd have 8 playing 8 that first time at a conference site, probably 2 weeks after the regular season's over. And then you roll right into you go from the 24 to the Sweet 16, and boom, 4 games later you've got a champion.
But you think there'll be a 2-week gap?
I would think there's got to be a 2-week gap. I mean, just from a logistics standpoint. Now, logistics are interesting from the standpoint of somebody's going to host the game.
Yeah,
but you still have to give people enough time to even the hosts to kind of get settled on hosting the game and
print the tickets.
print the tickets. Although they don't print tickets anymore, do they?
They don't. Much to my dismay.
Yeah,
because I'm always the wallet. Where's the ticket?
I forgot to save it. Why now? I can't get it. That happened to me and my baby brother Tony, who's 68.
When you went to the game?
We went to this Alabama-South Carolina game last year. We get to the stadium. I mean, I'm all on top. I'm not going to name the ticket broker, whatever you call those aftermarket things. Could not get the hookup. I'm standing right outside the stadium and could not get the hookup forever. We didn't get in the stadium until 10 minutes before kickoff, and I was sweating bullets. And I'm telling you, I wasn't going to buy 2 more in the aftermarket. Although I should have waited to buy the ones I bought, because Alabama clearly wasn't on a season to remember at that point. Neither was South Carolina. But I digress. Bottom line is, the ticket aspect of it is probably the easiest thing to do now, because the allotment is what it is, and get on the other team's website. The host team, like Tennessee fans, were smart enough to do last year,
right? Buy them up
2 years ago, and buy up some extra Vols tickets. But the bottom line is, it was interesting to see how much money was divvied up by the Big Ten from the 2024-2025 season. Ohio State's share definitely enhanced by the fact that it played 4 rounds.
Yeah.
4 rounds in the college football playoff. And, every round you get a certain amount of money, and then it gets more and more. But you get a certain amount of money for your expenses also. So, and that, that's probably going to change even more when they get to 24. It'll be interesting to see how much money is actually involved if they get to that 24 team thing. I've always thought 16 is more than enough.
I agree.
So that would give you enough time to have a legitimate two-week break with no conference championship games, 2-week break before you get into what could be 4 straight games for the 2 teams that play for the championship.
Yeah, I think with you're going to get too many teams that don't belong. And I know that happened last year because they tried to incorporate a Tulane and
yeah, but everybody agreed that was the way it was going to be held. So everybody was griping about it.
Yeah,
I have no sympathy for. You agreed, or your conference agreed to vote this way.
Yeah,
and that's where it went. So anyway, but like I said, I don't know how we got off on that tangent, except, wow, the Big Ten is making money for its members.
What was it? 91 million?
It's Confederation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Ohio State got the largest share, which
they did.
I forgot the exact number. Once you look that up while we're talking here.
I think it's 91 mil. I've heard it several.
But the bottom line is one of the reasons was they won the national championship that year, which means they played in four college football playoff games, which was crazy. And then past that, so getting back to this, we've been wanting to have RJ Day on for a little while, and the great bonus was we got his chaperone, Ryan Day.
Yeah,
you know something, a trivia answer I don't know the answer to.
Oh, Clay forgot.
Is Ryan's initials also RJ? I should know that, and I don't. I'm going to admit I don't know that. But
I meant to ask him on the interview.
Yeah,
if
but
you don't mind sharing that.
Yeah.
What does that stand for?
Yeah.
It would be 91 million, sir.
Yeah.
For Ohio State.
And you know, as somebody pointed out, in the Big Ten way of extrapolating who gets what.
Yeah.
Because some people still aren't vested yet, a couple of the members, but the way the payoff for 2024-2025 calendar year went, or school year went for Big Ten members, Rutgers got more money than LSU and Tennessee and whatever. So,
yes,
you know, the SEC, it hadn't just fallen behind from an NIL standpoint for the most part. They've fallen behind, period.
And fallen behind in a coaching vernacular, because that's what Kirby Smart said the other day publicly. Maybe they have better coaches than us. The rest of the teams will.
You never know what Kirby means, though. That's the point.
He's already got up. Yeah. The rest of the Big Ten between 72 and 79 million, but it's so, not everybody gets that full share.
Right.
But the big number is, it's just that kind of, when I heard it for the first time, 1.37 billion.
Yeah.
That is.
And Jim Delaney gets 6 million of that, and he should.
I heard that.
Because see, way back when, Jim Delaney said, instead of having me be beholding to us, meaning the Big Ten, be beholding to ESPN for the rest of our lives, hey, let's start our own network.
Yeah.
With Fox backing, by the way, you know, as you well know.
Yeah.
The Big Ten network. Let's see if that'll work. Where that'll go. Well, that took them to riches.
Yeah, it did.
Beyond imagination.
And Clay Hall should have gotten a little share of that. I cannot quantify the amount of content we gave to the Big Ten Network.
Yeah.
And then we're kicked out
as a charity. As a charity.
And then we're like, but you can't be in the stadium, Clay.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
While the game's going on.
You can't do the pregame here. Excuse me? You're going to kick your ABC affiliate out of, well, you really can't be on campus was the first.
I'm surprised Anthony didn't get after that.
Well, I got after it a little more.
You're a fearless leader at Channel 6 / Channel 6, Channel 28.
Well, I think there were times when legal action was considered, but they didn't want to spend. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's called tit for tat.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, quid pro quo, whatever you want to call it. We'll let you. Hope y'all didn't just give them that. I hope they had to pay for it.
Well, they did shortly thereafter.
Yeah, from then on,
no question about it.
From then on, no more soup line, right?
Yep.
No soup. No soup for you.
And it's expensive to do that now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
let's get into our conversation with Ryan Day and RJ. Just on, we've seen RJ grow. He became a starter as a freshman at DeSales. That was crazy, and right off the bat, led him to a great victory. And then he's had, as his dad talks about in this interview, he's had several of those come from behind or last minute kind of drive things, which in my opinion is feathers in the cap of anybody being recruited as a quarterback. We've also seen him physically grow. And we
may be surprised by what you see in the screen on the right-hand side.
Yeah,
He's filled out, as my dad used to say.
And his dad makes an admission. Don't give it away. His dad makes an admission in the middle of that about how he rates him now in terms of the family, RJ, in terms of family pecking order as a quarterback. It's pretty interesting. Meaning where he is, where he's gotten to compared to where his dad got to his senior year, maybe in high school and maybe forever. But it's really interesting. Because, he's a coach's son. So, boom, everybody's going to have their own perspective on a coach's son. But we talk about how he's physically now fits the bill of being a quarterback at the next level. But as his dad, you'll hear his dad point this out, and the thing is left unsaid there. Well, we'll talk a bit about this after we're done we're done showing the interview. But there's more to being a quarterback than being physically gifted. You've got to know what the hell you're doing. So we'll get into all that and a little bit more. But really appreciate Ryan Day and RJ Day sitting down with yours truly, Tim May, and Big Clay.
There you go.
That could have been the RJ, Ryan Day, Clay May report. Huh? RJ Day.
We could have
RJ Day, Clay May report.
Could have sold it like that.
Without further ado, and there's been a lot of ado there, we got to kick that off our shoes. Here's our conversation with Ryan Day and RJ Day. Man, appreciate having this duo on. They're father and son, but it almost looks like twins. Coach Day and RJ Day, thanks for joining the Tim May Show featuring Clay Hall, fellas.
It's an honor to be on your show, Tim.
Thank you very much. You read that exactly the way I wrote it. RJ, let's just get to you real quick, man. You know why we've got you on? It's not because you're the son of maybe what some people are calling the greatest college football coach in history, but one of the best definitely today. But, dude, you're a much sought-after quarterback prospect, and I'm just wondering how you are dealing with that as we speak right now, the attention, but also the desires. Your dad always says, get better today than you were a day ago.
Yeah, just trying to take every day one day at a time and just focusing on what the task is for the day. I'm not trying to get too caught up in, all the outside noise in terms of all that, but just taking it one day at a time has been my main priority, just to try to keep myself where my feet are at.
And Ryan, do you remind him of that every day, or do you have to? I mean, he seems like I'm not trying to blow smoke here, but he's always seemed like a pretty level-headed young man. But what do you caution him about every day or every week about the idea of no matter where you are, you can always get better?
Well, you can tell he's been around football his whole life. He already comes out with the coach cliches. Take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
he's been around some interviews before. No, but I think it is important for him because it's easy to get caught up in, okay, I don't know where I'm going to school next year. Which scholarships are coming my way. There's a lot of unknowns for these guys at this age. So it is important to stay in the present. And I think for him, that's it. And to the question that you asked earlier about getting better every day, like that's it. And,
yeah,
I'm proud of the work that he's done. I think some of the best feedback he's been getting recently is just like how much progress has been made in the last 12 months, where he is now compared to where he was even 12 months ago. But even, when you look back 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he's obsessed with it. So it's been fun as a dad to watch somebody chase something that they love.
RJ, you've got, as I see it now, 18 offers, including Northwestern, Purdue, Boston College, Syracuse, UC, and South Florida. You're linked to some people we know, and Brian Hartline, Bill O'Brien, Chip Kelly, just to name a few. Do you feel like this thing is surging? What are you kind of halfway through the battle to find a school, or are you expecting more to come now?
I've kind of cut down to a list, whatever that looks like. And I've been trying to just focus on maintaining and building the relationships with the people that are on that. And it's been important to me, and that's kind of been my priority when it comes to recruiting, is just keep establishing and building comfortable relationships with those people.
Ryan, how have you tried to are you playing this as dad or as coach? Because you certainly can coach him up. And I know you've gone to some of these 7-on-7 and recruited camps, etc. How do you handle that? Are you trying to stay, out of his way?
Pay no attention to me, right?
Right. It's a little bit of both. I mean, this is his journey, and I think there's pluses and minuses to having your dad be the head coach at Ohio State. I think the first thing is, he gets to be around the Woody since he's been, this tall. So he's seen what big time football looks like. He's seen what high achievers look like. He's seen what elite looks like. So that's been great. The other side of that is just how everything's amplified. Everything from when he gets off the bus to play a game on Friday night to, the minute he's at a camp or something like that. There's just a lot that comes with that, and he's been able to handle it really, really well. But I've tried to take a step back, but also, I realized a couple of years ago that, as a dad, these parents are wild, and this world that we live in now, like if you don't advocate for your son or your daughter, it's like something no one's going to.
Yeah.
So really, Nina and I both have really tried to jump in this thing and support him in every which way we possibly can. And that's probably my favorite, memory of this whole process is just the time that RJ and I have been able to spend together, because it's unique in that, you get to spend this time with your son. If I was doing another profession, it probably wouldn't be the case. So that's been great. And then also, like I said before, watching him chase a dream, something that he loves. But when I do go on these visits or anything, I do try to take a step back and make sure all the attention's on him.
Man, it's funny because I'm getting these flashbacks. I remember watching this video, how you guys put out videos of stuff going on at preseason camp and things like that. And I remember it was either 2017 after y'all had gotten there, or it might have been 2018 when you were the interim head coach, Coach Day, when I remember RJ was in the background of this shot of a magician. A magician was in that, and this magician made something either appear or disappear. And RJ's eyeballs got this big. I think he was like probably 8 or 9 years old and stuff. And it's just kind of cool to see him sitting here right now, if you follow my drift. Like you were talking about, I've sneakily watched him throw the ball in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center a few times and stuff. And where his arm has come is just amazing to me. But then right on down the line, the way he's matured as a young man. But RJ, I wanted to ask you, when did you feel like in your own mind you took that step from just being able to throw a football to be able to throw a football with gusto, perhaps throw a football with the idea that it's going to take you places?
I wouldn't say I really had that confidence until this offseason.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. I personally feel like I've made some good improvements in my arm this offseason. Now, obviously, I still have a long way to go with all that, but to me, this offseason has been very beneficial for me, whether it's training with my QB trainer or training with whoever, even with working out with him, in terms of getting my arm to a place where I feel comfortable making a lot of throws.
Yeah. Are you talking about Brad Maendler? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was.
I was correct in my guess. No, what I wanted to ask you though, what is it? This is the thing. You think, you're the son of like, Roger Clemens or Ryan Day or, Patrick Mahomes or something. And you can just do things, but it is, I would think it's great to have that third party watching you develop, right? Because I would think a lot of your mechanics and stuff clearly have come from your dad, who, if you're going to do something, he wants you to do it right? So he's probably showing you things when you were 5 and 6 years old. But what has Brad, I guess, brought to the equation in that regard of that third party being hypercritical and maybe in some respects about where you are, but where you can get better?
Well, one thing I think that Brad does an excellent job with is keeping my foundation in the ground and making sure I'm not leaning out of my throws. Yeah. I think that he's very big on the rotational side of throwing the football. And I was very linear for a long time. I was almost like I was coming off the mound every time I would throw a deep ball.
Yeah.
And just working with him has helped me be able to get my foundation underneath me, which has allowed me to be in more control and have more power underneath my throws.
Yeah, I was going to say it's cool watching guys make that leap. But what is the one throw that when you felt really good about? You know how you get that pop on your fastball as you get older as a baseball player. What's that one throw that told you, hey, like I said, it can take you places, but this has the ability to get me power 4 type offers. If you follow my drift, what was that throw you felt like you had to master?
Are you asking like the throw individually or like what type of throw?
What type of throw is more I'm talking about?
I would say the deep balls. I mean, driving the ball down the field with consistent power and accuracy was the one thing that I came into this offseason saying like, okay, that's where I'm not where I need to be.
Yeah, not just flinging it, but placing it, right?
Yes.
Did you have something, Clay?
Yeah.
I have to urge Clay to ask questions, Coach Dave.
Right. You had 2,700 yards and 25 touchdowns last year at DeSales. And as I've watched you and as I read, you've been described as, quote, a high accuracy thrower in tight spaces. It sounds like Julian saying. What, as you said, the development that you've made, is there anything else? What's the horizon here for your senior year and choosing a school? And eventually we're going to have to ask Dad the question.
Yeah.
But those numbers have distinguished you. And was there, what would you say is maybe the key thing in your development?
The key thing in my development, just the mentality going into it has always been the biggest thing for me. When I do something, I want to do it to the best of my ability, because I think that represents the type of work ethic that you have. If I were to do something that I'm passionate about halfway, then what does that speak to me as a person? So just coming into every day with the reset mentality of I could have had the best day of my life yesterday or the worst day of my life. Today is a fresh slate, and if I don't maximize today, then today doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things. Yeah,
I was going to say, RJ, is it important to get to a Power 4 school? Where do you kind of rest in that regard? Because obviously, I think every team in the MAC, especially in Ohio, has offered you, except maybe Ohio U. You know what I mean? What? I guess I'm not going to ask you that $64,000 question yet, because I would think growing up immersed in Ohio State football, et cetera, as long as almost you can remember, that would be the dream. But where is it? Do you definitely want to get to? Is it Power 4, Power 4 or bust, or is it basically the system? You got to be in a good system.
For me, looking at the name of the school and the size of the school isn't as important as you would think. I want to find a place that fits me and fits who I am and fits the player that I will become. It's not about the size of the school. Like we say all the time, I could come here if I wanted to, but would it be a great fit? I don't believe so. I don't think that Ohio State would be a good fit for me. So it's not about the size of the school for me. And I've said this to pretty much anybody who's recruited me. It's about the fit and the people that are in the building.
Mm-hmm. What is it about Ohio State that wouldn't fit for you, if you don't mind me probing that answer?
Well, coming into it, I just feel like a lot of people would have their own reservations about why I'm there. Yeah. I want to do something on my own. A lot of my life has been about being someone's son. I feel personally that I want to go do something for myself and try to make a name for myself instead of just being someone's son.
I know you'd like to coach your son, Coach Day, but the flip side of it is that's got to make you feel good hearing that coming out of his mouth, I would think, doesn't it? I mean, as a father,
I want him to be on the Buckeyes, but his mother won't let him, so we got no chance.
Oh, I got you. I thought you'd be proud. Yeah, you know what I mean. Make his own name. Go ahead. Yeah.
I think for him, like he does, like he's been obsessed with this, and I think if you were asking the questions about describing him as a player, I think the first thing you recognize is I think it's been 8 games, since he's been playing. He's had fourth quarter comebacks.
Yes.
And a lot of those were in the last play of the game, last drive of the game. Started the first game he ever started as a freshman. Like he's always just kind of had that feel for the game, mm-hmm. and his knowledge of the game. Even last year, like I shared with him, like your number one job next year is to build up your teammates, like make these guys feel like they can just beat the New York Giants, and like that. Mm-hmm. All those things add up when you're when you're a quarterback and you're a leader. And he's obsessed. I mean, I say this to a lot of people. he's convinced me more now than ever that when you make up your mind you want to do something, you can do it. And doing it. And so, and when it comes to the school, like he said, I think, a big part of it is going to be the people in the building, and that's helped me even now as a coach. When I go back now, where my coach's hat in recruiting to these parents is like every decision you make is through the lens of what would you want it to be if that was your son, and that's your job, because we need that. But also, the school too, like, he's going to college to get an education, and then that matters as well too. So all those things come into play. It's not just the football, although in our family, that's a huge chunk of it.
Yeah. Real quick to follow up on it. How much video have you and him watched together over the last 10 years, you think? I mean, or do you do that? That's what I was going to get to. I mean, he, I've heard from everybody, he's very steeped in the idea. I mean, in the mental part of the game. And that doesn't just, you don't just get that by osmosis or DNA, you've got to develop that. But when did you realize that he was getting it, that aspect of it?
Well, I wanted him to want it. And that was the hardest part. And that's exactly what happened. So he's obsessed with it now, watches the film hours and hours. But I remember during COVID, when everything was kind of shut down, I would load up my laptop and bring like cut-ups of defensive fronts. So we would put it on his wall, over front, under front, split front, and he'd have to watch it and learn about defensive structure. Because that's, being a quarterback that's as important as your ability to throw a post or an out route. Like, you got to know what you're looking at. And so he jumped in on that. He loved it. And, it kind of went from there. And so that's been a big part of the last, we'll call it 4 or 5 years of his development.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that fun to you, RJ? It sounds like it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Go ahead, Clay.
Yeah, RJ, you're a heck of a player. I've gotten to see you at some Ohio State camps as well, like throwing 20, 30-yard outs into a net, and it goes right in there like a Jordan jumper. But the thing that got me, and I'm a pretty emotional guy, was after Ohio State wins the national championship and you and your family are on the field and you look at your dad and you say, "We're so proud of you." And you stuck up for him. I saw that in videos as some of the turbulent times. I thought that was a heck of it's certainly from the heart, and it just got me, man. It just pierced my heart. That support you had for him, and then to see him bring it all the way home. That had to be a great moment for you and your family.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, when you talk about adversity, I mean, there's no really greater lesson, maybe besides Jesus Christ, than watching my dad go through what he had to win the national championship.
Ryan, coaches' kids sometimes have it real easy and sometimes have it real tough. That's kind of getting me emotional a little bit thinking about that moment also and stuff. But for you too, I mean, nothing worth getting is ever easy, right? I know that's Clicheville 101, but to have your son have witnessed that kind of stuff and y'all all come out of it as a family, probably so much stronger than you were before. And it's that group, like Clay is talking about, it's you and your wife and kids there at midfield at the Georgia Dome or whatever it's called, the Mercedes-Benz Dome. That has to be a number one moment in your life, I would think.
Yeah, at the time it was relief, but when you look back, to me, nothing, like you said, nothing's easy. It just, I think people watch this and they think this stuff's easy. It's not. There's so much that goes with it, as you guys know. And when we lost that rivalry game that year, I just remember the next couple of days and thinking to myself, as hard as this is an opportunity to teach our players, and show my family and my children, like, what do you do when things get hard? What do you do? Yeah. Just fall on a ball, or do you get up back up and solve the problems and get it fixed? And anytime you go through things like that, it's an opportunity to write a great story, and that's hopefully something that all of those folks who are involved with it will learn from and use as a reference point. Also, like fans, I mean, people have come up to me and just talked about what that meant to them and everything like that. But most importantly for me, it was Nina and the kids. So that, they know that, hey man, when things get hard in your life, because they're going to get hard, you got to be able to fight your way out, and that's our culture, fight.
Yeah.
And
God,
that was important.
What an example. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. I know you've got a quarterback certainly committed for 27 and Brady Edmonds. Have you two talked about him going somewhere, maybe establishing himself and perhaps becoming a Buckeye further down the line, or has that ever been a topic of conversation?
I mean, we've talked about a lot of different things, and, a lot of different things are possible, but I think it goes back to what RJ started with, was like, let's just take it one day at a time, and figure out what's coming tomorrow. Because that's really all we can do. I know I would love to coach him one day. I'd like to coach with him one day. I know he'd love to play, for me one day. He shared that with me, but the truth is, and where we're at right now, like, he wants to do his own thing. And I think it's great. I think wherever he goes, he is going to bring great value to whatever program he goes. And then he just got to maximize each day the best he can, and then figure out, where it goes from there. But he's a guy who's loyal, and, he's not going to pick a school thinking he's going to head anywhere else.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I mean, these scholarship offers, they're not given out like Halloween candy anymore. To know that Chip Kelly is part and parcel to Northwestern offering him, you may not even be able to. Yeah, you can talk about offers. You can put them on the internet, and to know that Brian Hartline, that he's been offered by South Florida and stuff. Those are people who've been in the building who've met RJ, who know RJ, right? I mean, that's somewhat of a compliment that I would think that in fact he is taken quite seriously, like we were talking about a while ago, as a prospect, right, Coach?
Yeah, well, they know the makeup. I mean, they've known him in this tall. So if they didn't want to recruit him, they would just say, hey, listen, we're not going to recruit him. But they are. And, their processes have been great. And, they've been great. The communication's been great. They know, what he's all about. And so that's what they have that maybe some of the other coaches don't. So that's been cool to watch.
Hey, one last thing for me, and then maybe Clay has one more. RJ, like I talked about a while ago, the magic trick, and your eyeballs got real big. Dwayne Haskins Jr., you got to meet JT Barrett, Dwayne Haskins Jr., you know where I'm going with this, I think. Justin Fields, CJ Stroud, and then most recently, I mean, Julian Sayin, and of course, Will Howard. Who's your favorite? Because you're a Ohio State fan, I think, right? Who's your favorite Ohio State quarterback thus far?
I couldn't tell you a favorite. I think I've learned something.
There you go. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Different from every one of them. Each of them brought something elite to the table that maybe the other ones didn't. And certainly there's been a lot of lessons to be learned from each of them.
Yeah, but that is a great lesson right there, right? You don't have to be cookie cutter. I mean, and you've seen your dad work with those different quarterbacks and make them foster them along into winners. I mean, what has your dad told you that's most important about playing the game? I think he touched on it a while ago. It's pretty much you got to have the wherewithal, but then you got to be the leader, right? I mean, you've got to be the guy everybody leans on when everything else is going crazy, right? I mean, do you like that aspect of that position?
Yeah, I think the fact that the quarterback is like the whole team looks to the quarterback. It's very similar to being, a head coach. So the quarterback and the head coach have to have a great relationship. And I think that being a head coach's son has helped me with that part of it. And I also think that being in control of the game and having a direct impact on the outcome every single play is like a part of the playing quarterback that I really enjoy.
Amen, brother. Go ahead, Clay.
Yeah, last thing, Coach. I'm just wondering maybe your proudest moment watching RJ play. And I'm wondering if when that happened, if it's a touchdown pass or whatever, and you see yourself in him and you see the way he plays or the little hitch or this or that or the other, and you're like, yep, he's mine. That's a chip off the old block.
It takes a lot for me to say, but he's definitely better than I was. So it's a while to give that up, but that is true. It was probably this year in a game that I wasn't at we were on the road, and I had the laptop watching it stream when they played in the playoff against Ashland. And I was told the other day, and so I have a brag as a dad. There's been a lot of playoff games played in the history of Ohio State football or Ohio high school football, and I think he has the second best performance ever behind that mark. He had 482, and then took the team down the field and scored that last second touchdown. And that was just a great game. Both quarterbacks are going back and forth, and so that was just a tremendous one. But even as a freshman, watching him win the rivalry game in a situation that he was completely over his head looking back on it now, but he found a way in the game to kick the field goal to win. So there's just been a lot of these moments late in the game that he's had a chance to come back and win, and that's been fun to watch as a dad. But watching after he gets his butt kicked and how's he respond the next day, I think that's life too. I remember there were different times where Nina would say, boy, they whether it was an AU basketball game or something where they lost, they got their butts kicked, and I was like, good, because this is how it works. Like, not every day is going to be fun, and as a quarterback in this game of football will take you to your knees. And so your ability to identify what went wrong, get it fixed, and have the strength to continue to get better and keep pushing forward is a sign of a quarterback that's going to have success in the future.
Absolutely. Right guard can miss his block, and you're on your butt on the last play of the game. You're wondering what the hell just happened, right? And it goes by fast. Hey, Coach Day, RJ, appreciate you joining us, my man.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks for having us on, fellas. Wow.
I really enjoyed that. I think you did too, Clay. You pretty much set it up.
Yeah, no question. No question. It was good to and as I was doing the research a little bit on his resume, and some differ on the number of offers, Division I offers 14 to 18. But I mean, as I was talking to somebody today, I said, hey, what's been going on? I said, we had a pretty, nice little interview with Ryan and his son, RJ, and they were, skeptical. And I said, look at his offer sheet, brother.
Yeah.
I mean, Chip Kelly.
There are Power 4 teams.
Bill O'Brien.
Right. Every conference
Brian
in the Power 4
Hartline. I don't think he would offer him just for the hell of it.
Every conference in the all but one conference in the Power 4, he's got at least one or two offers from
his representative
in teams. Of course, as we touched on there, he doesn't have an offer from Ohio State yet.
No, and I think
that's open ended. But like they talked about, when I asked Ryan, was asking Ryan, because RJ was talking about making his own name. You heard him say that, make my own path. And Ryan said, I would, counter to what you might think, I would love to coach my son. But a lot of this Nina Day is driving the chariot here in terms of
she'll be the one. Yes.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean,
if he goes somewhere else.
Well, as Ryan said, RJ's the one that's got to make up his mind. But RJ clearly, his eyes brightened up when he talked about wanting to go and do his own thing somewhere else. And I
think that's healthier.
I keep reminding people, summer camps haven't even started yet. This guy could have quite a few more offers, because we've seen him physically grow from this. Like I pointed out to him, this little boy was watching a magic trick back in 2008, 17 or 18 preseason camp with the Buckeyes to now I think he's taller than his dad. Looks like it is. And
pretty close.
Yeah. And he's physically, he has grown. And the reason we harped on that, I think you agree with this. Before anybody comes after you as their quarterback, you've got to prove to them that you can actually physically play the game. Now, do you know the game? And like his dad pointed out, those film sessions, those video sessions with his son, looking at defensive fronts, the different defenses you can face, and it gets more complex the farther you go in football.
That's it.
The faster you can assimilate what's in front of you and get the ball to the right place at the right time. That's the essence of playing great quarterback. And that's the reason I didn't harp on that to begin with, is I kind of figured he was getting that with his from the time his dad was spoon feeding him mashed up potatoes or peaches or something, right?
Yeah, I wish I had
now,
asked.
Son, when you see a too deep look.
I wanted to ask him what specifically, where does he has helped you the most? But
don't talk about questions you didn't ask. I mean, that's not.
But I want
That's called short selling.
I will update you that he's taking his official visit to Northwestern this weekend.
Yeah.
And I would just challenge people, as I said, that
Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator there now, who was Ohio State's offensive coordinator 2 years ago, as his dad said when I asked him about that when you have people involved who are offering you scholarships now who used to be in the building at Ohio State, like Brian Hartline. Brian Hartline has seen RJ grow up from a pup.
Bingo.
And Chip Kelly, same thing. When Chip Kelly shakes hands with RJ, if they didn't see each other last summer, when he shakes hands with him, he's going to go, man, this guy's gotten a lot bigger than the last time I saw him.
That's right.
This son of a guy that was you could almost consider Ryan almost Chip Kelly's nephew a little bit, just their relationship and stuff.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
But yeah, he is growing into a legitimate. He has offers in the Big Ten from Northwestern and Purdue. And he has an offer, as I pointed out, from every team in the MAC that's based in Ohio, except Ohio University,
right? For
some reason, including Eddie George's Bowling Green outfit. And so, you got to show you can spin it, man, to get offers like that. But then you've also got to show him you got a little bit more going for you from a moxie standpoint, from an ability to run a little bit, because everybody's looking for that quarterback who can run a little bit. I think he's shown that. Yep. So be curious. But, one of the guys who's helped groom him along the way is Brad Maendler. And I'm probably saying his name wrong because I think and we'll get him to clarify it in the interview I do with him. But Brad Maendler, based out of Brunswick, Ohio, is one of those quarterback gurus who have come along in this modern age of everybody having sort of a tutor, for one of another term. And, what's his, I think the name of his outfit is called QB Excelerate. And like I say, he's out of Brunswick, Ohio. One of the guys he's worked with in the past is Drew Allard.
I was just about to say he's had a list, man.
Yeah.
And I see the videos all the time.
The videos are great to watch.
Brad Maendler.
Yeah. If you could just isolate and just watch the videos he's posted of RJ Day over the last year and a half, and seen his progress of the ball just coming out of his hand, wow, it's really crazy, man.
Well, that's what I mentioned in there. It's just seeing them in Ohio State camps.
Yeah.
When Herb Street's son was there too, and and what he was doing with the football kind of astounded me.
Yeah.
Just the distance and the mustard on it
and the accuracy,
and he lays it right in this little net. That's posted.
The accuracy. I mean, he's been throwing over there. What is that? A 10-foot net or 8-foot net where they have to drop the ball in.
Right.
I've seen him in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center a few times, but just he's always working on his game. Yeah. And like I said, if he gets anything, from his dad, it's just the savvy. The smarts about playing the game. Obviously, he got his good looks from his mom, but if he gets anything, it's the savvy, that the guile that it takes. Because his dad, just go watch video of his dad when he played at New Hampshire. He was a playmaker, man. I mean,
basketball player too.
Yeah, but I'm talking about at New Hampshire, University of New Hampshire. He was a playmaker as a quarterback, and they didn't win every game they played, and like Ryan pointed out, his son has had a couple of tough losses during his high school career. But, man, he had a shootout last year in the playoffs. I think it was the first or second round of the playoffs against Ashland. I can't remember the quarterback from Ashland, but he's a fairly highly regarded quarterback, too. He's going to App State, I do believe. I think it's Appalachian State. But this is a guy that reminds you very much of Tavian St. Clair, the way he can play. And wow. And but the bottom line is, they won that shootout. It went down to the wire. It was like RJ set records in that game from a historical state standpoint, and came near some others. But this guy can spin it and he can win it. So good luck. Yeah, are we overselling him? I don't think so, because we're not saying he's the best quarterback coming out of Ohio State. Like you pointed out, Ohio State's already got a commitment for next year. What's the name of the kid?
Brady Edmonds.
Brady Edmonds.
I think he's
for the 2027 class.
Yep.
And if you could get two quarterbacks in the class, sometimes you want to get that because you got to figure everything's going to weed itself out.
Bingo.
As opposed to my lawn.
You're going to lose one.
As opposed to my lawn, which does not weed itself out.
It's quite healthy.
Yeah, but everything's going to weed itself out down the road. But you can never really, you got to have 4 quarterbacks in a room in some form or fashion to call yourself healthy, I think, at that position from a meeting standpoint and everything else.
We certainly saw it play out here.
But let's get to my conversation with Brad Maendler.
Yeah.
I mean, really, this is a cool guy. I've heard of him for a while. I've talked to him on the phone a couple of times, but this is the first time I've ever interviewed him. Been wanting to have him on, not just talk about RJ, but just talk about the people he works with and how cool it is to see young fellas, progress. So without further ado, let's get to our conversation.
Your conversation.
There you go. As I promised with Clay, wanted to have this conversation with Brad Maendler. And by the way, I was saying Maendler earlier just because of the spelling, but Brad has corrected me, and rightfully so. But I'm not the guy that spelled his name Maendler. Brad Maendler, man. Who you gonna think gonna beat them Bengals and spell Maendler? Maendler. Hey, I was going to call your players, the list of players you've worked with is Maendler's list, but that might not go over that well. But Brad, man, you have carved out, like many people have now. Used to be you've carved out a niche. Used to be like 20, 30 years ago. College coaches especially didn't want to hear about their young prospects, et cetera, their players working with somebody outside the building. Because that'd be like going into a Southern Baptist church and preaching blasphemy, in their minds. But now it's welcome. And I'm telling you, as people who just listened to our interview with Ryan Day and RJ Day, his son, big time prospect and getting more so by the minute. Ryan Day, one of the recognized quarterback guru head coaches in the country, a national championship to show for it, obviously, has endorsed you because he's letting his son take your tutoring. I mean, that's got to be a little bit of a feather in your cap, I would think.
Feels pretty good, man. I'm not going to lie. The first time we trained, I trained RJ. Ryan was there. He stepped in a few times, added some things, and I was kind of like, this is really cool. I've got one of the best QB brains in the game. Yeah. Adding to what I was doing, and of course I'm a huge Ohio State fan, so it was kind of surreal, right? You're trying not to fanboy, and now that I know them pretty well, it's like he's a dad who happens to be a really good coach. You know what I mean? It's
yes.
That part is not a big deal, but those first couple times that was interesting, and that was absolutely
walking on fire, ladies and gentlemen, with Brad Maendler. Hey, real quick before we move on from now, I did want to ask this: what did you find that stood out about what Ryan was doing as he was observing? I've always thought what stands out about him, but especially in the quarterback realm, is a stickler for detail. I mean, about netting, everybody has their own, any quarterback has his own style. Watch Brian Sipe, throw, and Terry Bradshaw and Joe Montana. They all were different. I'm just throwing a few names out there from the way past, but kind of legendary names depending on what region of the country you grew up in. But you grew up in Northeast Ohio. I know you've heard of Brian Sipe, but I actually got to cover him, but too small to play the game. But man, did he get it done there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But my point is, you have to let a player be himself, right? But then there are certain fundamentals, rudiments, et cetera, that you can correct, perfect, whatever you want to call it along the way. Is Ryan really, in your opinion, from what you've noticed, is he good at that?
Oh, that was the first word that entered my mind when you answered that question. Immediately was detail. The guys who are the best at this have a huge command of details that help drive performance, but they can say it in a way that's concise and simple, often kind of punctuated by a really good analogy. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So that was the thing that struck me. I was on a call with him last summer. Spent about 30 minutes with him, just like really picking his brain. And I was furiously writing notes, and the level of detail for someone like me who is way into the details, but also way into the idea of these kids can't process all that. They can't take it all in.
Mm-hmm.
They can't use it all. So you have to chunk it. You have to put it into context for them and really create a lot of things that they can feel, right? Like if I can get a kid to feel key things that I want them to feel, that's an actionable thing that they can kind of chase versus all these different coaching points. And so I just really appreciate great teachers, and that's what great coaches are. They're just great teachers. So
hey, I want to get
yeah,
I agree with you 150%. That's what makes the great coaches is whatever is in your head, convey it to the other person so they understand it, and then take another 4 or 8 or 15 steps forward. I wanted to get into your background in just a minute, but I do want to ask this: how did you? Because you've developed quite a reputation. I mean, in the country, really. But I mean, obviously, you worked with Drew Allar, a former quarterback at Penn State, just got drafted. I think you worked with Ethan Grunkenmeyer, right, from around these parts and stuff. But 2 guys who went to Penn State. But how, in a nutshell, how did you gain the trust, I guess, of college coaches or even high school coaches, right? I mean, you work with guys who are still playing the game like RJ, but how did you end up getting the reputation, do you think, that made you attractive to RJ? I guess, how did y'all hook up?
So RJ reached out to me, and then Ryan reached out to me almost in the same day. Now, I had met RJ.
Wait a minute. Pardon the pun. Go ahead.
Yeah. I had met RJ at the Elite 11 regional prior to them reaching out to me. So there was a little bit of familiarity there.
Yeah.
But RJ reached out, had a conversation with both he and Ryan. We said, hey, let's get together. I'm a big bring somebody in, test out some concepts, let them feel like let them know what I'm all about, kind of what's the why behind what I teach, and let them feel it. And honestly, Tim, that's where I hook a lot of kids, because I have an ability to help them generate power where it feels effortless, and it may not have felt that way previous. And you'll get a kid kind of walking away saying, hey man, I want more of that. So over 20 years of really learning and relearning and identifying, like, where do I need to get better? Where do I need better answers? I've kind of like settled down to this system that just works irrespective of age. So,
yeah. Wow. By the way, I'm going to sign you up as my golf coach as soon as we're done here. I would like to get to that effortless power. By the way, I'm 72. I've never hit the ball farther than I hit it now, which is really how far my golf game needed to come, so to speak. Yeah, it's pretty weird, but we'll get into that in a minute. So let's give people a background. Your company name is what? QB Excelerate. Do I have that correct?
QB Excelerate. Yeah.
EXCELERATE. A little play on words there, which I really like. I remember did one of these conversations with Bobby Stroop. I don't know if you've ever even heard of that name, but he's a guy that worked with Patrick Mahomes and Quinn Ewers. I did that 4 or 5 years ago, actually. Had a great time because, like, you take in, you're not just working with the cream of the crop. You're not just working with the big names. You work with a lot of fellas who aspire to be a big name, but who aspire to be just the best high school player I think that they could be, or small college player they could be, right? But why did you? What was the attraction? I guess what first got you into this? Because you were, businessman, so to speak. What was this always in your brain that one of these days when I grow up, I want to coach quarterbacks? I mean, what kind of give people a little bit of your background of how you got into this?
Well, I was a big kid when I was little, so I always played offensive line. Gotcha. And as I got through middle school, I started coming back to the pack. There's a kid who's playing quarterback who's really good, but I know in 10th grade, we're not going to be going to the same high school. He's going to a private school. I'm going to the local public school. And I'm like, hey, there's an opportunity. I could always throw, but I was extremely raw. And some of my early football experiences, like I just didn't know a lot. And really my quarterback training amounted to watching a lot of football, because right away I loved football. and just trying to see what these guys did on TV. I think that's what a lot of people our age did, right? Like, how does that look? And so, I ended up playing in college and then getting, into business almost right away. And what's interesting is as soon as my son got into playing youth football, that's when I got back into football. So that's about 2002. We had moved to Ohio. I'm originally from Minnesota. We had moved to Ohio in 2001. And I just sort of fell into it, honestly. We had a kid down the street who was going to play quarterback. My kid was like me. He's big, and he was going to play offensive line.
Yeah.
Got a kid down the street who's going to play quarterback who had a very strong arm but had issues throwing a spiral. And I'm like, man, what do you mean you can't throw a spiral? Just like let it roll off, let it flick off. And I didn't have better answers for him. Yeah. And it just bothered me. And I'm like, okay, I need better answers, because it always came natural to me and I worked really hard at it. So that's what I did. And it's been a rabbit hole thing for me for 20 years, trying to find better ways to generate power, create accuracy, spin, better decision-making, the whole thing. Yeah. So I don't know. It's like some people love to play golf and some people love to, do other things. I've just always sort of thinking about this stuff. And so when I went full time in 2022, I don't feel like I've ever worked a day since that time. It just feels like this kind of big fun, ride where we're helping kids get better. I love being around the younger kids. They got a lot of energy. We have a lot of fun. So this was not something I chose. It's something I fell into, but because of the way that I'm wired, I really do focus on searching for better answers. And so every time I thought like I had this nailed, I would learn something new. And I'm like, okay, I need to go back to the drawing board a little bit on that. And I've never been satisfied with status quo. I've always been trying to literally every year I'll look through my entire list of drills and I give it a really hard cleansing. Like, does this serve our kids? Is this still good? Does it look and act like football? Right. And I'm not trying to be out here, putting together drills that look like obstacle courses. We're trying to do football things, right, and develop skills that you can apply in a game and get better results. So,
but everybody's built different. Everybody's tall. Some people are tall. Some people are short. Some people are in the middle. I'm not going to name all the ways people are different. Some people are large. Some people are skeletally, and some people are not. But I would think throwing the football has a couple of things in common for anyone. I mean, I know that, but I wanted to ask you about it. I mean, just give people a little bit of a free clinic here. What are a couple of things that are germane to anybody who wants to throw a football under some type of control and strength, power, and for that matter, length? You know what I mean? Throwing the ball deep, so to speak. What are there a couple of things that are common for everyone?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things we've seen over the past 5 to 10 years is this move away from a linear thrower, like maybe what you would see with a pitcher off a pitcher's mound, right? Yeah. We're quarterbacks. Yeah. We have a limited time schedule in each play, right? Anywhere from 1.5 seconds to 3.5. And we have to think of throwing and generating power in almost in like kind of generating it in a phone booth. Yeah. So, it's tight quarters, very compact, right? And so that's why rotational has really caught on. And if, some of the things that everybody would associate with the way that quarterbacks should throw that we grew up with, actually, they were good at the time. It's nobody's fault. It's just found better ways to generate power and create a better direction or placement for the ball and appropriate spin and all those kinds of things. And so that's been that rabbit hole. So generally we want to think in terms of generating power from the middle of the body out. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the muscles, the power systems that reside in the middle part of the body, that's where we want to create the power. The arm is really just going to be a transfer point for the energy that's created through the middle of the body. And I think it's one of the coolest things that we do is just take the arm out of it, and kids love the way that it feels, and it's healthy. It takes the pressure off of the joints, the muscles, and that kind of thing. So it's a rotational thing that includes learning how to connect to the ground, learning how to maintain really good posture, learning how to use some physics principles like rapid deceleration. I use an analogy where if you think about those old car commercials where they would have the crash test dummies in the front seat, they don't buckle them in, right? So they send that car moving towards a wall at 100 miles an hour. Well, when that car hits and those crash test dummies aren't strapped down, they fly right through the windshield, right?
Right.
And so what I'm teaching kids is okay, let's use that. Right? Let's use that natural physics principle, which, by the way, is going to happen 100 out of 100 times. Right?
Yeah.
Let's use this principle, and we got to start thinking about our body as the car, our arm and the football as the crash test dummy. So we kind of flip the script on them, and we think more clean rotation with the ability to really create an abrupt stop that creates that jump in the ball. And then you wrap it all together with just really good timing, just like any other, endeavor where you're maybe hitting a golf ball or, spiking a volleyball. There's a timing where you can get that maximum amount of energy to release into the ball. So it's really important to know how to do that. And it's really important to know how to do it in a game like football, where I'm not always going to be in a perfect top of drop situation where I've got no rush and I can just kind of like step into the throw. A lot of times I'm having to make subtle movements left and right. And it's one of the things I see a lot when new kids come into my program is as soon as they have to move, everything falls apart. And so their ability to be accurate will drop. And if you want to be a starter, your job is to move the chains. We talk about that all the time. You got to be able to move the chains. So that means you can't one hop the 3rd and 8 curl, right? Because you have to move a little bit to the left, and you sort of got out of your flow. So,
no, I love everything. I love everything you're talking about here. I mean, the reason I'm just sitting there nodding is because I'm going, yeah. And the thing about when I was growing up, like step into your throw and let her rip. The bad thing about that is the reason I like the rotational approach is it's kind of like being a gun on a battleship. You can like still turn and still fire the cannon without necessarily your feet always being in the right place. I mean, there are all kinds of ways you can get into that, but like you said, it's got to come from your gut up, you can see everybody doing it. Who in your mind right now, if you had to put an example, and I'm not necessarily looking for somebody you've worked with in the past, just this you see on Sundays, who is a guy that, boy, if you could get every one of your students, and maybe you do this, watch this guy, watch the way the ball comes out of his hand, but more important, watch how he gets on platform no matter what. I call it platform, but but who is, for example, a guy that you could let a guy watch his video and not pick up any super bad habits from watching?
Aaron Rodgers.
I knew you were going to say that for some reason.
Well, look, he makes it look pretty, and he's so efficient. He's so efficient. And the cool story about him, and very similar to Josh Allen, is they went through these aha moments where what they were currently doing did not serve them. They knew that there was more. So both Rodgers and Josh Allen made changes to things, and I've heard people say, well, don't change a quarterback's throwing motion. Don't. And I wouldn't disagree with that in the sense that if you can get a quarterback better timed up and more efficient, a lot of times it'll take care of like inefficient things that they do with their arm, because you don't have as much time to kind of mess around when your internal clock and your timing is better with your throw. But you can make change, and these guys have proved it. And now physically they're very gifted, but if you know what you're doing and how to teach it and how to have kids connect to it, we can make some really impactful changes for kids where they can do things that they, weren't able to do before. And if you were to ask RJ, and maybe you did in the podcast, what he would say is in our work is just how much that power dynamic has changed for him. That was one of the questions that I know coaches had about him, is that did he have enough velocity to make the throws you need to make in Power 4? Yeah. And I mean, just yesterday he threw for Virginia Tech, and I'm pretty tight with the Virginia Tech quarterback coach, Danny O'Brien. And I'm like, he gives it to me straight. And I'm like, tell me, man, like, what do you think? And he goes, well, I'll tell you what, I looked at his film last fall. We obviously spent a lot of time there. The guy makes plays. He's like an operator who can distribute the football, makes great decisions, and, very impressive QB play. But the big question is can he make those throws? And he said, hey man, what I saw today, the film from last fall does him a big disservice in what his arm talent looks like and performs like today. Meaning he made a big jump. And so this is what I mean. I mean, there's opportunities for significant improvement, and RJ simply just worked tirelessly, relentlessly at just getting better, not just in throwing, but in the weight room, the way he changed his body, what he does to improve mentally. It's pretty impressive. But that's, you ask about who's kind of representative of what efficiency looks like. Now, he's almost more efficient when he's off platform, right, than he is.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he does some things. Now, the thing about Aaron Rodgers is he doesn't talk about his mechanics very much. So it's kind of a downer, but I've already scripted Drew with, about 20 questions that I need him to ask Aaron. I'm hoping Aaron re-signs with the Steelers so that we can find out some of those nuggets, right?
Close the loop. Yeah, close the loop, as the old saying.
100%. Right? 100%.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Will Howard's there too, right? Pittsburgh. Yep. And, when he came to Ohio State, I mean, he led him to the national championship. But, as the coach at Billy Fessler, his quarterback coach at Ohio State. But they worked with him from the time he showed up because there were things that needed fixing, in his mechanics and everything else. And he was so much better a quarterback the last 4 games of the year than he was the first 4. And agreed. I mean, what was your take on
true. So true. I had this conversation with Billy. I've known Billy since he was the QB analyst at Akron.
Sure.
I said, man, I know what you did with Will Howard, but it's really impressive, and I don't think you're getting enough credit.
Agreed.
Really talking about that, but I remember seeing Will Howard in spring practice, his first, spring practice with Ohio State. I guess his only spring practice, and I thought, okay, good body, like he looks the part. I felt like he had some challenges driving the football, and I'm like, okay, that's not what I expected. And like you said, those last 4 games, and really from the middle of the season on,
right,
his ability. So you could see that he was more connected to the ground. He was more rotational. And he was letting the big power systems in his body do more of the work. And Billy did a great job with that. So
yeah, absolutely, I agree 100%. I want to follow this with this. When did you realize that you could, for want of another term, turn this into a business? And by that I mean, I don't know if you've ever met Roy Williams, the head, the former basketball coach with North Carolina and Kansas. But he's about 5'0" tall. You know what I mean? But 7-foot guys listen to every word he says. You follow my drift. Meaning, when did you feel like you crossed that threshold of where I have all this to teach, but I've got to convince people I know what I'm talking about, and not only that, but you will feel and see the results. I mean, when do you remember that? There had to be a player or 2 or 4 that came along when you were just generating, sort of getting this going out of a passion, right? And but do you remember when you kind of sat back to yourself and said, you know what, people are taking me serious here. You know what I mean? I've got something going, and other people recognize it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's such a great question because it does not happen right away. I mean, I played quarterback. I've been obsessed with, learning how to be better, not just with throwing, but with decision making and how to operate on the field. So I was always interested in it. And even when I was, not in coaching quarterbacks, I mean, I was always following it. And I was always trying to find things out about it. Well, like I said, 2005, 2006 is when I started doing this.
Yeah.
And so when I started, it was very much a process of solid quarterback instruction, how to get back in your drop and get to your landmark and be, balanced up, and how to line up to the route break. So, we can throw an accurate football and I'm not pointing this way and trying to throw that way.
Yeah.
So it was those kinds of things. I was very fortunate. I started working for a company called the Quarterback Academy, and Darren Slack was the founder of that. And Darren Slack was just a great teacher. He was the first person who could talk about throwing mechanics in terms of physics, biomechanics, those kinds of things. And so I learned really how to diagnose arm path problems in the throwing motion. And then there's a guy, Will Hewlett, who's, I think, one of the best, if not the best, quarterback trainers in the country. And Will pulled me aside around 2015 and really shed some light on some things and opened some doors for me that really took me to a different level in terms of how to help kids actually throw better. Because some of the things I was doing earlier were fine, but like in this business, you can mess a kid up if you don't know what you're doing, right? And
Gotcha.
Information is very powerful. Ideas are very powerful. And kids oftentimes take things very literal. So you tell them things and they can go too far with something. So if you're a coach and you don't understand that, and you don't understand the ripple effects both up and downstream on a throwing process, you can really mess somebody up. And there's been this explosion of quarterback trainers all around the country, people doing it. All you have to do is literally go online, look at Instagram videos and pull drills out and now put your sign up and say, hey, I'm going to be a quarterback trainer.
Yeah.
But there's a danger in that from a throwing mechanics standpoint, because you don't know what you don't know. And I think it takes about 7 years to really understand. When I make changes, when I suggest changes, I have to be careful about these things. And I don't want it to slip into this. I don't want it to slip into that. Right. I mean, there's that process. So, but if I was brand new starting out in this business, I would focus on balance and posture and getting yourself lined up at the route break and being able to make quick decisions, those kinds of things. That's what I would focus on. I've just happened to develop this mechanics thing over the course of 20 years. And I learn every day. There is, every time I think I said this before, every time I feel like I've got this nailed, I see something, because I'm working a lot of times 6 to 7 days a week. I'm seeing so much of this, and my eye picks up things. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't register with this. Let me go back. Let me look at some film I took of other kids. And so that's, for me, it just keeps it fun that way.
I'll tell you what, I like one of the videos you posted on your Twitter site. I think it was, you might be probably on Twitter and Instagram and stuff, but I think it was 4 or 5 different players. For example, the other day, throwing, looked like a deep out, but you were throwing, to the sideline, rolling to the sideline. You had a little window that you had to throw from, like you were in the pocket. And RJ was in part of that also. By the way, I've been watching your video. I've been watching your videos for a while. Don't think I'm stalking you. But,
awesome.
But all 4 of those quarterbacks were different. I think it was 4, might have been 5. Were different physically. Yeah, but you understand. But the ball was getting to the right place at the right time, and most of them with great velocity. And I was really struck by RJ's almost effortless is not the right way, not the right word, because there's a lot of effort involved. But the effortless way, it looked like his arm, like you said, his hand came through the motion, and boom, that ball just zipped out there. But it was just 4 different looking quarterbacks all doing the same drill, but from your standpoint, I would think it's like a doctor where you have patients and each one has their own chart. You know what I mean? That you can't treat every patient the same because you're dealing with different parameters. And I would think that would be the most difficult thing, I would think, for anybody getting into the business, is not treating each person like a domino. They're different dominoes. And you're still what I'm saying. Did you kind of have to work your way into that? Or go ahead.
I had to learn that. Yeah, I had to learn that. I very much cookie cuttered it early. And, that's what you do when you've got a number of kids in a training session. You're trying to, focus on the main things. You want people, progressing and that kind of thing. So the drill that you're talking about really was a drill where we were in a bad body position, but I still have to be able to generate power.
Yes.
I put them in extreme situations. The things that I'm teaching are non-negotiables. Like in those situations, this is how you can generate power. Here's a couple of tools you can have. And then I give them the guardrails. And then I'm like, okay, you guys got to play with this. You guys got to know what you can do and what you can't do. Some people, like one of the kids that was in that drill, I'm pretty sure it was Colin Boff, a local kid he's just committed to Bowling Green. Yeah. Local.
Oh, yeah.
Harvest Prep.
Yes.
Well, Colin has really, really good T-spine mobility. So he can disassociate hips from his rib cage. And think of it as like those big rubber bands that are crisscrossing your body. We're stretching them almost like if you had a rubber band and you put a paper clip on the end of it, right? When you're a kid, I'm sure you probably hit one of your brothers. I create that tension. I let it go. That paper clip jumps. When I reduce the tension, the paper clip doesn't go far. It dribbles out, right? So how do I maintain that tension through admittedly a very bad body position? And so you got to give them the concepts, and then you give them the guardrails, and then it's like, okay, experiment, see what this feels like. And all four of those that were in the drill, 4 or 5, had different body types, different abilities in their body. Like some are more flexible, they can get more external rotation, those kinds of things. But within the framework, those guardrails, they can operate better by, kind of relying on a couple of tools to be able to do that. So,
that's so, dude. And like you said, even you got into the rabbit hole of quarterback coaching, but then even individuals have their own rabbit holes. I mean, you can just keep going, right?
No doubt. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to him. Like I consider this a healthy obsession to chase this stuff.
Obsessed was the word you were going for. Yeah.
I'm trying to promote self-improvement as a life concept because it was such a big deal for me. Changed my life around, and we're talking much more broadly than football, and because it's so real for me, and it's like it drives me. And when I see kids taking ownership and doing more than is expected, and really embracing kind of this, it's such a cliche, the grind, but it is a grind and it's lonely work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I want to be really good and I want to do more than what is asked of me, I'm going to need to put that time in, and a lot of times to be by myself or with another guy. And so who's willing to put the controller down and actually go out and work, right? And those are the people who really start to separate.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, we could talk. I mean, I could talk to you for 14 hours. We take a break and come back and talk another 20. But I won't do that to you. I want to hold it. But I do want to ask a couple other things. We'll get at, because I'm gonna have you on again, because I really like the evolution that we've seen from quarterback play. I'm talking about the physical ability to throw a football. I mean, I grew up in, I remember looking on the back of Bart Starr's, I think it was Bart Starr's football card when I was a kid, and he had these different drills, exercises to make your arm stronger and better. You know what I mean? That's how. I mean, I was always accurate, but I was never a big time quarterback for anybody. But I always just loved that position, you know, for all kinds of reasons. But I want to ask you this. When you watch
remember
Julian
that Joe Namath map? Do you remember that Joe Namath poster where it showed all the positions? I used to love that. I could never find it when I was a kid, but
Dude, I grew up, I was born in Alabama, and then we moved to Texas. I saw Joe Namath play, as I like to say, on two good knees. I mean, I'm 72, but my dad took me and my older brother to Alabama games back then in the early 60s. And you talk about if there'd been arthroscopic surgery instead of them having to lay your knee open every time you, I mean, Joe Namath
could have. You saw him play on two good knees.
Oh, dude, he could. Dude, here's the thing about him: he could run. I mean, he was a hell of a runner. And under Bryant, and he had a jump pass you wouldn't freaking believe. I mean, you remember the old time jump passes and stuff, which you hardly see anymore. But he he created that rotation, I think, and he didn't even know what he was doing. You know what I mean? If you follow my drift, but I wanted to ask you this: I know you've at least watched this guy play, at least on television, probably close up and personal. Julian Sayin, in my opinion, I've been covering Ohio State football full-time pretty much since 1984. I remember I covered some games of Art Schleicher in high school back in, what would that have been, the fall of 77, when I was working for the Columbus Dispatch when I first moved up here from Texas. And he reminded me of Namath in a lot of ways, the way he kind of carried himself and everything like this. But my point is with Julian, I've never seen a guy throw the ball like him at Ohio State. And I covered Troy Smith and Joe Germain right on down the line, but Julian just has he seems to have more power than he should, which I think comes from that aspect we're talking about, but his accuracy is just kind of off the charts to a certain extent, unless he's getting crushed by Reuben Bain.
Right.
But what do you see when you see Julian Sayin? Obviously not a finished product, but wow, right?
Oh man, love his game, love his accuracy. Last time I saw him, he's definitely spent time in the weight room, like the Ohio State staff is doing its job there.
The Marati magic, as I call it. Yeah.
He's pretty thin, because I had him in a camp when he was in 9th grade.
Wow.
And he stood out. This camp was unbelievable. It was at Lucas Oil Stadium, and CJ Carr was there, and a bunch of other who's who from around that time.
Yeah.
And Julian stood out right away because he was so polished, and for his age, it was like, wow. So was CJ Carr. They were so neck and neck, but like the accuracy was impressive. But you're exactly right. He generates more power than you think he should. And it's because he's so good with that sort of mid-torso manipulation on how to really create energy, hold and release it at the right time. He's excellent at that.
Yeah. By the way, his dad sent me videos last year from him playing as 11 and 12-year-old. And he was, so what's that old line, about when they were trying to legislate controls over pornography? I can't tell you what it is, but I know what it is if I see it. You know what I mean? Type thing.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
If you saw these videos, you're just going, this guy's 12 years old, and and his whole team, the whole team was very competent, but he was putting the ball right on the money, on takeoffs and fades and what do you call it? Was it sluggos and things like that? And you're just kind of going, wow. And he's 12 years old. I mean,
and I'll bet he looked poised. I'll bet he looked poised.
That was the thing. He would look unrattled. What's funny, if you ever watch his brother Aiden, who played for Penn, University of Pennsylvania, he's older. Obviously, he's on the Columbus Aviators right now, or has been. But the bottom line is he looks very similar to that. But, he didn't quite looks like a couple of the gifts or whatever, And the fact is he and his brother were quite competitive with each other growing up, which made it, an interesting, I would think, dynamic for his family to deal with. But it's kind of cool when you see something. But like you just pointed out, he didn't just come out of the womb throwing the ball like that. I mean, there's so much work involved, right? It's to him, like for RJ Day, it's his fun, if that's what you call it, obsession, is going and throwing the ball, to somebody or to the wall. I mean, and putting himself in different positions, et cetera, to do it. That's got to be when you get a hold, you personally get a hold of clay like that, that's got to be the coolest.
Oh my gosh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, like, that's why I could see right away with Drew, like this raw arm power. But if you compare Drew Aller versus Julian Sand, like Julian, I'll bet he was playing 7-on-7 back in 5th grade.
Yeah, probably.
And he's had so much experience throwing the football. You know how like you're underwater, and like if you were to pretend throwing in the water, because of the resistance of the water, you can actually feel where your arm is in space.
Yeah.
What happens? Yeah, this is what happens to guys who are really accomplished is they can control their arm angle and they can be accurate in any way. Doesn't matter what the angle is because they just know how to control their arm in space. Drew, and I kid his dad about this all the time. Like Drew was playing fullback and defensive end and tackle. And if it was up to Mr. Aller, Drew probably would have been a tight end in high school. Still would have been a Division I player, but a different position. But like Drew does not have that same volume and time in, and that's why I think his upside is so significant in terms of the way he can control the football. It's only going to get better, and it has.
Yeah.
So
that was like Ben Crenshaw. He was putting when he was 4 years old. You know what I mean? Right. And he became one of the world's great putters only because it was part and parcel to him. He didn't have to. That's why I wanted to ask you last thing. Is your approach with a lot of these guys, even though they're talented athletes, or they probably wouldn't even be there in the first place with you in terms of seeking to become better. Is it the old saying you got to break habits and then make habits? Do you run into that a lot? I mean, or does it, if you follow my drift, you've been doing something a certain way and it's worked for me up till now, Coach. I mean, what do you mean? I mean, is it, but do you find most of your students to be quite receptive to that change?
Yeah, that is such a great question. And so in my previous life, I worked for a consulting company. We would help sales organizations. And one of the things we would do is help sell change, right? So if there's an incumbent in a business and I want to go, displace that incumbent, I have to have a way of, like highlighting a problem, right? And selling them on the fact that, hey, this is what you're doing now. You're getting these results, but look at here. If we went here with it, here's what you could get. And I think I intuitively knew that if I was going to work with better people, and every year I kept people just out of the woodwork, they started, like reaching out and wanting to train. What I found is that the better ones were very convicted in what they were currently doing, which is great. So I couldn't just tell them to do stuff. I had to give them information. I had to have them try things out and feel it so they could say, oh, there is something different here, right? Because you got to sell change. Otherwise, it's so easy for them to go back to what they were doing. So 100%. That is a big part of what I do is selling change.
Hey, do you think RJ ends up at a Power 4 school when it's all said and done? What's your take on that?
100%.
Yeah. And another thing, like you just said a while ago, the interesting thing about him, as I've watched him grow personally, I've seen him grow from a little kid to where he is now, and he's not done growing. See, we talked about a while ago about changes that players make, but physically they become much bigger specimens of their current selves. And he talked about that, the ability to throw the deep ball, which kind of came to him, a year and a half ago, when he kind of said, okay, well, you've got to master, you got to show you can do what the coaches need you to do before you can, I'm making this part up, before you can do what you can do is the way I like to put it. Right. I've always said when there's a quarterback competition at Ohio State, you got to show you can run their offense before you get out there and be Patrick Mahomes. And, you understand what I mean about Patrick Mahomes.
And even then, you better prove it over years.
Over repeated times, exactly. But anyway, well, hey, Brad, great having you on my show here, man.
I enjoyed it, man.
My buddy Clay Hall, I told him, I said, Clay, I'm going to have too many questions. If we throw yours in there, we'll be here for 4 hours. But I'm going to have you on again later on, man, if it's okay with you. And
I love it.
Yeah, one other last thing. We talked a while ago about Ryan Day and his strengths, et cetera. But I did want to ask you one other thing I thought of during that. is he has had, since he's been at Ohio State, he's coached J.T. Barrett. I was talking to him about that the other day. J.T. Barrett, Dwayne Haskins Jr., Justin Fields, C.J. Stroud, Cal McCord for that one season as a starter, and then Will Howard, and now Julian Sayin. Dude, those they were about as 5 or 6 different guys as you can get in a lot of respects. But what does that show you about Ryan Day and his ability to not just have something set in his head that my quarterback has to look like this, be like this, and what he's been able to do with different quarterbacks?
Yeah, well, 2 things for me. Like, one, this guy can develop. You know, it's one thing to have the Clay that you mentioned earlier come in, but like, he knows how to progress it, how to help players reach their potential. And as a player, that's all you can ask.
Yeah.
I just think they do such a great job with developing kids, but clearly, right? Like, Ohio State is like, I know they talk about receiver U, but man, it's quarterback U too. Like, he's made this an attractive place for quarterbacks to come. They win all the time, right? They go to a lot of playoffs. The offense is in a place where a guy can really show what he can do. Like, you know what I mean? Throw downfield, pro style concepts, responsible for making call. I mean, just all those things. So I think that's such a powerful kind of combination there, right? The ability to develop and the ability to attract. And that's really, they got this thing humming now.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, Brad Maendler. I learned how to pronounce his name. He needs to learn how to spell it, but that's a task for him for another day. I'm Tim May.
The bane of my existence forever.
Yeah, exactly. See, when you're Tim May, they still sometimes get it wrong. Jim May, but that's the way it goes. But Brad, thank you for joining me and speaking for my good buddy Clay Hall, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, we'll see you then.